I didn't feel like Earth was home. I knew there was something else and I needed to find it. I got to a place where my mind went so still. There was no mind. What was there was awareness, aware of infinite stillness. God, source, oneness has created mind, and we are living in a mind-made reality, a mind-made dream. As far out as we can imagine is as far out as we can create. Many people have lived in Atlantis or Lemuria, or when we were communicating telepathically using more an expansion of our mind. I really feel like it's in the field again. 2025, the year of the snake, we were just dissolving layers and layers, and now we're going into the fire horse. There's huge shakeups happening collectively, individually. We've got 3i Atlas activating with Jupiter, extraterrestrials, these beings of expanded consciousness. Something big's gonna happen here. That which has been hidden from us is really gonna be coming up to the surface. Awakening is happening. People are remembering what they truly are. This one's confrontational. I brought this up on my YouTube channel and oh gosh. I didn't forget that I'm an infinite being. We are the infinite, having a finite human experience. So I remembered that, but I had this mom who would sometimes be super loving and say, yeah, you are a light. What you're doing can heal people and like work with the healing energy. And then because what she was called is bipolar and she had depression, well, still does, then there'd be moments where she would just kind of flip and say, yeah, you're worshiping the devil and that Reiki stuff is awful and kind of, so growing up felt like I needed to figure out if I was safe. But there was a deep inner knowing that I was, because I was the infinite being. So I have memories like this. I have memories when I was sitting in the back of my mom's car, looking out the window at like the school, the people, the buildings, and I asked this question. I said, if there isn't all of this material stuff, this physical reality, what is there? And boom, it was dark and light at the same time. I was in spaciousness, but it was like full, but it was empty. It felt very, very comfortable. Just for a moment, and then coming out of that, I just knew that is truth. That is truth. And everything else is a dream, is a creation, and I really feel like that helped me to want to learn more, understand it more, meditate more. And so I went on a huge mission in my life to find the right teachers, and they would take me under their wing and help me with psychic development, and I started seeing auras and colors around people. And I started like knowing information that you just wouldn't know about a stranger. I could sense what they're feeling in their body. And I knew what the colors meant. And so I also was channeling extreme amounts of white light through me, like heat, tingling. And I remember saying to my mom, if I send this light out to others, they can heal. And that was when I was really young. So I'm growing up and I'm seeing angels like as sparks of light, seeing them, hearing them. I'm hearing them not only as like frequency shifts in the room, but also as messages through my own mind. And then I was feeling in my body, feeling a lot of like tingles, goosebumps, feeling what other people are feeling. And so I've got all of this magic happening, and then I've got a mother who's up and down. So I really started to learn how to read energy even deeper and stronger, so that if she was in a bad mood and gonna be angry, I could already kind of contract my energy and protect myself from it. So I learned how to protect myself. I learned how to read energy, read the room, so I know how to work with the energies. And so I feel really blessed that I had a mom like this because, I mean, she's still alive. I love her so much. I mean, it's taken my life to get to a place of real, true love, but I am there, and I feel like she's one of my biggest teachers. She was such a big trigger, which I believe is the hugest way in which we can grow and expand. And I ended up having depression. So I had such an amazing life of being able to like connect beyond this dimension and feel the love that is always here. But then I went through in my 20s and 30s, like I guess I'd also held in some of the human stuff, the emotions, and um, I mean, I moved out of home at as quick as I could at 17, so that I could, yeah, just try and have stability and calm and peace. And so yes, and at 17, or 17, 18, I also then trained to be a full-on holistic healer. So by the time I'm 20s, 30s, I'm already fully trained as a Reiki master teacher and a channel, and I've developed a lot. And so I'm really happy in life, and I'm working on super yachts in the ocean, and I'm channeling for, I mean, all sorts of people, like royalty, and then it was fun because we'd work with like J Lo and all sorts of different people, and some people that had never even heard of Reiki. They were asking for massage, and the captain was like, "Well, we're out at anchor. We don't have a masseuse available. We've got Natalie. She's doing Reiki." And so it was just interesting because I was in this bubble in this world, and really enjoying myself. Um, and then I met a partner, and he didn't like to be touched. So um, all the sadness that was hiding inside of me came up to the surface as strong, deep depression. And this relationship it was a hard relationship, because I'm very loving, and it felt like biggest rejection. So I I had to face all the shadow, all the darkness, all the deep sadness inside of me. And when that relationship was coming to an end, I was so depressed. Whenever I was alone by myself, I remember crying and wishing that I could go home. I didn't feel like Earth was home. I knew there was something else, and I needed to find it. And so yeah, that's when I booked myself on my very first Vipassana. And whew, Vipassana is so hard, especially when you're like mentally struggling, and emotionally just a mess, going through a really hard relationship when you live and work together in small
They say it's
quarters
like
on a
brain
boat.
surgery at the best of times, let alone when your brain already feels I shouldn't say that, but, when you're already feeling so cracked open. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's exactly like that, brain surgery. That's it. So yeah, so I went there to Vipassana. I just had this strong feeling like this is what's going to crack you open and release you from this depression. And it's 10 days of absolute silence. You're not allowed to talk to anyone, no eye contact. There was one day, there was a massive spider. You're not allowed to go, "Hey, help me with the spider," pointing, nothing. You have to stay and face your own mind. And on day 5, I was sitting there in meditation with 80 other meditators, and it happened to me. It was so strong. This darkness that was inside of me showed itself, and it said, "Natalie, don't worry. If you don't get through this, you can just go hang yourself in a hotel room like you've done in a past life." I was crying. I was like shaking, and the teachers needed to like take me to the back, and they were spraying some sort of water on me and just being there with me. And I was crying and crying. When I could speak, I asked them, I said, "Will I ever hear that darkness or experience that darkness again?" And they said, "When you face the darkness that's inside, when you face it, the light that you are is so bright, it dissolves it." And it's so true, Amrit. I have never had depression again. I actually fully healed from depression. I have experienced sadness. I'm still human, I experience all the different emotions, but not full-blown depression. that Vipassana changed my life. And yeah, I came out and it's like all my gifts came back online, and I remembered the light that I am. And yeah, it's just, yeah, I feel like I'm vibrating so much light sharing this story, because it's okay to face the darkness. Actually, it's so important that we do. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, even just what you were describing about your mother, I couldn't help but see how much a mother provides nurturance, and like a holding, and for you to have like a crack potentially in like the safety element of like a womb nurtures, right? So that nurturance, and have that crack to sort of then emerge and provide yourself with the safety mechanisms internally to be able to navigate reality, and then, go on the journey that you have. And yeah, it's there's so much in there to unpack. One of the things that I guess is scratching my own curiosity itch is specifically around spiritual experience.
Mm.
Recently on the podcast, for those that have been following along on a few of them, they will notice that yeah, I'm just fascinated by, because we've been accumulating spiritual knowledge on the podcast for quite some time. And I totally believe there is a place 100% for knowledge, but then also it does seem like, as you said, hey, I was drawn to this place where I had to face all the sadness within me. It was like, what? Like, that is quite the harrowing experience by the sounds of things, right? Um, the importance of spiritual experience, in your opinion, and spiritual knowledge, and how do you see the two sort of dancing and weaving together?
Mm. So when you talk about knowledge, it's learned. It's we can read books, listen to podcasts, and learn and intellectually understand. And I feel like that has an important place, because the mind wants to understand, and it actually helps when the mind understands what could happen, because then when something profound does happen, the mind is right there with the body and the breath in presence, and you're able to kind of work with all of it at the same time. So, for me personally, I have an awful in memory, which is kind of a blessing, because I mean, I'll have a session with a client and channel something, and I remember nothing afterwards, and so everything's really confidential because it's gone. And also, I studying or learning, I I can't retain. I just don't retain information. So for me, it's been about direct experience in order to understand what is truly happening here. And so this this presence, this energy inside of me has always been saying, there is more to life than what meets the eye, the ear, the smell, than your five senses. There's more, and you can find it by going into your body, because all answers are inside of you. Everyone can access it from within them. And so for me, actually, this is quite interesting, because about a year and a half ago, I noticed that sadness was appearing again regularly. Not depression, but sadness. And so, using my own tools as a healer, and like I'd be able, as a psychic, I'm able to go, okay, is it ancestral? Is it um past lives, like that? But I got this deep feeling inside of me, no, don't do that. Sit with the sadness and be in your body and feel it in your body, and something's going to happen. And Amrit, it was so transformative. I just sat on the sofa and felt what sadness feels like in the body, as an energy, as a frequency, as a vibration, not as something that I'm trying to run away from and fix. So So I embodied it, and there were tears, which is the alchemy of water is the element of if it's in excess in the body, water is actually leads to sorrow and deep sadness and grief. And so that's why it alchemizes and comes out as tears. So I sat with it and I observed it, and I had this massive cracking open, which I felt in my brain. Now already I'm very like sensory. So for example, if I drink a kombucha, I can feel exactly where in the brain it's activating. Um, uh, yeah, so I can feel how when we feel fear, I can feel exactly what it does in the solar plexus chakra. So very in tune, and watching the body, and then having this massive breakthrough. And I got to see how both sides of the brain were firing and wiring. Something cracked open, and I made a promise to myself that from that moment forward, I am going to remain aware, conscious and aware for the rest of my life. And it's been a year and a half that I am conscious and aware, meaning that which I'm not, which is the patterns inside the ego, um, which is sometimes what we can identify with as the personality. And we think we're our thoughts and we think we're our emotions. But when you live more with awareness, you realize you are the awareness that is watching the mind, watching the ego, the patterns within the ego, watching everything. And it creates more spaciousness. So I created so much spaciousness, and stuff started to really happen for me. Like, I can sit in my room and stare at an object, and all of a sudden, the room will start to go, I'll see white light around the object, then everything will go violet light, and then I'll start to see fractals, and the room will disappear. Everything will just disappear, and then it will come back. So, yeah, there's another profound experience that I feel like could also create activations for any of the listeners and viewers. So I feel like being guided to share this. I've been to another Vipassana, one more since that one, more recently in December. So I've already been living in awareness. So now I'm pretty open, and I go to Vipassana, and it's in the beginning really hard. Mind wants to think, you keep bringing it back, and you just focus on this area, and you're meditating, and eventually on, I think it was day 8, you reach the state called Banga, where you dissolve. It's dissolution, and you're vibrating. And Goenka, who they've got like recordings of him, he says, don't attach to the good sensations. And then I'm going, oh, that's where I got stuck last Vipassana. I left there feeling great, attached to the good sensations. He's like, go further. And so I went further, and more deeper past lives started to come up to the surface, and pain in the body, and you just sit, and it moves through and moves out. And then we were finished meditating in the hall. So I went out, and I just got such a strong feeling, go further. Because something had been happening to me. In that meditation, a great intelligence in the body started to move my body. So I had pain. It was like air trapped in the belly, and my body started moving like this all the way. And there was one point where I was like, oh, no one else is moving. And here I am full on moving to the side. But I'm just going to keep trusting. Then I went and meditated by myself, and the great intelligence moved my body to release lifetimes of energy that was trapped in my belly. And some people, you could call it like bloating, or irritable bowel syndrome, or something like that. Then after this movement, I was lying outside under the trees, and something profound happened. So I got to a place where my mind went so still. There was no mind. And then my body. So I was feeling the energy and it went Sattva, 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 Sattva. Nobody. There was no mind, nobody. What was there was awareness, aware of infinite stillness, spaciousness. I would call it peace. And then when my mind came back, the first question it asked is it said, God is love. Everyone says that source is love, but love wasn't there. So what is this? What is love? And then I got to experience it because I had dissolved so much of the patterns of the ego that I was just emptiness, and I was having direct conversation with the deeper part of the mind. And I got to understand that in oneness, there is no separation because it's one. There cannot be two in one. So there is no movement. Love is movement. It's expression. It's experience. And so God, source, oneness has created mind so that, and mind is powerful. It's far more than we can understand it, because you'd need mind to go outside of mind to understand mind, and that's impossible. So what I got to understand was that in oneness, there's nothing there. It's empty. It's still, it's peaceful. There's nothing going on. But then that oneness has created mind, and we are living in a mind-made reality, a mind-made dream. As far out as we can imagine is as far out as we can create. And so I got to understand how it all works. And I got to sense and feel it. And so then I started to see that this whole place is made up of subatomic particles, like little particles that are born and die every, like, I don't even know. I can't give a time. It's so fast. So and within
nanosecond. Let's just call it that. Yeah.
yeah within that nanosecond, when that subatomic particle explodes, it creates the 4 elements. So air, water, fire, and earth. So now I'm like, whoa, this is fascinating. And I start to meditate into this because I want to understand how this reality is happening. And I got shown that, okay, air in excess is like this. For example, if you all of a sudden get a shock or a surprise or fear comes up, it's like this. It's air being held in the body. It gets trapped. And then if we allow nature to happen by itself, another subatomic particle will explode and it will bring fire. Because if you go excess air with fear running in your system, you need fire to help to release that air. And so then I watched fire start to move through my body, and I started sweating. So it was fire and water, sweating. And what it felt very intense in the solar plexus. It felt like what you would call anxiety. And if I had gotten back into my mind, I would have stopped the whole process, because I would have been like, whoa, I feel like I'm having a panic attack. This is too much. But I allowed it. And I watched a profound something happen. I watched the elements transform and change. So I watched the air release, the water and the fire combine, and the earth. Earth is structure. And if it's in excess, you can feel depression, you can feel stuck. And water, as I mentioned before, with water, you could feel like you're the victim of your own life, and you feel very sorry for yourself, deep sorrow. And excess, so that's earth, water. So fire is where your mind is racing, where you feel overstimulated, overwhelmed, anxiety. So those are all the excess of them. But and then air is like is excess fear and worry and not trusting and doubt. So when you observe the body, you see and sense, there's sensations happening, and you watch a divine alchemy happen as these 4 elements interact and completely shift. And that's why we have tears, and sometimes that's why we will like shake, because the body's so intelligent, it knows to shake that excess air out. And I watched it, and I got to see that if we can hold space and allow the intelligence of the body and the consciousness to do its thing, we can heal, we can dissolve patterns that are stuck within us, and we can come back to like a neutral space and state where all of the elements are more balanced and working in harmony with each other. So yeah, it's there's so much that happened there. That's all that's coming to mind now. Yeah.
Hey there, inspired souls. I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription. Your subscription is a free way to support independent media at a time like this. And with that, I'd like to take a moment to all of you that haven't yet subscribed. It costs you absolutely nothing. It is free. Please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, join the movement, power the podcast into going into the places, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much for your incredible love and your support. Really, really appreciate it. I just wanted to take a moment to invite you into the Inspired Evolution Community Circle. We call it the Circle. And it's such a beautiful space, in my humble opinion. Once a month, enough of Amrit, I step out of the way and you step into the podcaster's role as a community to ask these guests your questions directly of these guests once a month. It's an incredible experience, touchwood. I'm learning a lot from the questions you're asking these guests. And then once a week, we gather, I guide meditations, there's community deep dives and sharings, there's a bit of breath work, bit of yoga. Live, we're trying our best to make sure, even though it's through a screen, we're connecting in real time with people inside the community on a regular basis. So the intention is, if this content inspires you, and you want to forge that into connection, we'd love to welcome you, wait for it, home to the inside at the Inspired Evolution Community Circle. I'll put a link to it on screen now, inspiredevolution.com/circle. Come join us. Try it for a month for $1. If it's for you, brilliant. If not, no stress. You can always leave. Come in, try the community for $1 for a month, and we'd love to welcome you home on the inside. Is there a fifth element? In some elements, in some teachings, they speak about a fifth element. Is that what's holding space for the other elements? Is there something interstitial between the other elements, or is there the 4 in your experience?
The fifth element through direct experience is space, which is consciousness, God's source, in which all elements can be experienced and arise from and die back into. So it's the holder of it all.
It's like a container. Yeah, wow. It's interesting because somewhere along in that explanation, you also had, I really want to, the elements is like such a rich conversation, but part of it is following my thread back a little bit. What is truly happening here? Because initially you mentioned there is an emptiness that is completely full, but it's empty, and it sounded very Vedantic. That's how the Buddhists sort of described the emptiness that we're moving through. And as you said, you saw like there was a place of mind, no mind, just vibratory experience. But then you also mentioned that there's an energy inside you, and my mind, being a mind, can't help but kind of go, emptiness, full, but then also energy, individual. Like there's this whole, and then there's an individual. There's already a separation there, but it. I'm not sure. Can you speak to that? Because maybe I'm a little bit off in my orientation there.
I'm gonna do it in an image. Okay, so imagining an iceberg, I feel like at the tip of the iceberg, like let's say 6%, is the thinking mind that, the mind thinks a lot. It's the personality, the identity, and then we start to drop beneath the ocean, and you start to experience the individual expanded part of the mind. So when you when one meditates, one starts to experience more than just thought. One will have inspiration, aha moments, ideas that come from more of an expansion. So you're tapping into more expanded individual mind. And then you go deeper and you can connect to collective mind, which is where you go from being the individual to starting to sense and feel that you're not just yourself, you are connected to the blade of grass, the sunshine, the other people and plants and animals. There's something deeper. So the mind expands and it goes deeper and deeper. Now, as it gets deeper, it's getting subtler. So the vibration, at first, it can get very strong and powerful, as you can have very powerful spiritual experiences. And then the more you stay in stillness and awareness, it actually then goes the other way. It gets quieter and still, to a point where you're no longer in that ocean where there is a separate self and energy vibrating, and you pop out of it completely. So you're no longer part of that individual experience. You've now returned back into the oneness. In the oneness, there is no thinking mind there. There is just a still awareness. There is awareness of spaciousness, of emptiness. And then from this stillness arises a thought, and then you're back in mind. But when you go to that space, when you go back to the oneness, and then you come back into being separate, you are so in tune, you are so high frequency, you are so connected that you are very expanded, and you can have profound experience and really sensory experience the infinite being that you are, consciousness at the physical level of the body.
Because that experience is really interesting, because if it weren't for that experience, one could ask the question in terms of how do you know you're not just dissociating? Do you know what I mean? But it seems like because is that how you know that you're not dissociating? Because you're actually having this really palpable experience?
Yeah, and because, yeah, it's really hard to describe in words, to use like language to describe
So
something.
sorry for taking you to these places, but they're deeply fascinating. Thank you so much for honoring the questions. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, you know what, Amrit? It's a knowing. It's such a deep knowing. It's like when I came back and then I asked that question about love, I then felt, and it like brings tears, like I feel such expansion when I talk about it. I felt so much love. Not finite human conditional love. I felt so much love when I came back into my body, and I felt so much like, oh, wow, I'm so happy that I get to be human. And I felt so expanded, and I realized that which I was desiring, sometimes when I was younger, wishing that I could leave here and go home, I realized that this is home, that source is here. We've never left it. We're inside of it. And just to absolutely still the mind and the body and like leave the body returns you back to the truth that's already and always here. And then you come back and you realize, wow, what a blessing it is to be a human, because nothing's going on there in the oneness. So everything's happening here. So you like really want to live life and like make the most of this life, because it's the most incredible gift. I felt like I just wanted to hug everyone, but we were in silence. And I just, yeah, the experience is so so profound and so deep that you just know. Yeah, I hope I've
Yeah, it's
described that
brilliant 'cause yeah,
better.
it's truer than true is what I'm hearing is like, yeah, it's do you think, these experiences I mean, 'cause it for those that are tuning in, I don't wanna sound flippant, pardon me, this is, a brother talking to a sister here, touch wood. In some ways, but some people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's all well and good for Natalie. What does this imply for me?" And you run retreats, you support experiences and stuff like this. Is this something that you just happen to be touched by grace? Obviously, that's why we started the podcast, at the risk, where we did, because you've obviously cracked through in certain ways, as well. That's been a big part of your journey. But yeah, is this sort of experiential awareness, is it something that do you believe is available to everybody? And this goes back to my spiritual knowledge, spiritual experience sort of thread. Does that make sense where I'm coming from? Do you think it's available for everybody?
Absolutely. I know it. I know it's available for everyone because I've made it my life mission to have the experience so that I can come back and teach and share and help others to be able to experience it. So the way,
Then why
the
is that
way,
important? Sorry for interrupting, but then
yeah,
also why is that important that everybody does move through? I wanna yeah, sorry, part 2 to that
yeah,
question. Sorry for interrupting.
yeah, because suffering is awful. Like, oh, it makes me just, because being a sensitive, I could feel everyone's suffering and I felt my own suffering. And we're not here just to suffer through this. There's so much more available to us. And so I feel like anyone that is suffering and struggling, the way out of the suffering is to know that the first thing is to know that there is a way out. Just that in itself is like, oh, okay. And then, and then to know that the way out of suffering is here in the present moment, is your body, because the body is a portal to the infinite self. And when you have, like, and I'm sure everyone here has had like a glimmer or glimpse of like expansion or experience, like because everyone is a soul or uh, consciousness or infinite light. Everyone is that. Like we're just having a human experience, and so just when we remember that, we can have some like breakthroughs. So I truly believe that if if someone is determined to want to move out of suffering, it's determination that gets you through it, then two things: maintain awareness and equanimity, meaning be aware of whatever's arising inside and do not run away from the uncomfortable sensations and the awful emotions and the discomfort. Hold space for it, because when you hold space for it, in that space there is love. When you accept it and don't run away from it, there's an immense light that you are that will start to gently dissipate those patterns, those blockages, those suffering energies, and you'll have little breakthroughs and you'll have little like experiences of this. And also then not to attach to trying to seek becoming spiritual, because there's no you can't become spiritual, you can't become something that you already are. It's about dissolving that which you're not to find that which you already are. And everyone is already spiritual because everyone's already spirit. So take the wisdom of the body and observe when you have a contraction and a fear, and hold space with tender lovingness. And then when you have expansion and joy, hold space with tender lovingness. And you'll, with patience, with love and determination, you can also have this type of experience at different levels. And because we are consciousness having trillions of different experiences, it'll be unique. It'll be unique for each person. But what I do definitely know in my heart is we are all spirit. We are all infinite energy. And so, yeah, what is blocking you from remembering and experiencing the true infinite you. It's those patterns.
And breathing in earlier to what you were saying, some of those patterns as you were experiencing them locked in, trapped in your body earlier, some of those are probably present from this lifetime, but it seems like some of those you carry from interesting places. I wonder if how many of those are yours and then how many of those are your like lineage as well. I mean, there's probably a bit going on there. Um, a big part of your work is healing. Does it matter whether what we're healing is just our own or like because you're quite sensitive and attuned there? So I just wanted to sort of unpack because there is some people say between lifetime stuff, then there's intergenerational stuff, then there's you like the stuff you're working on in that particular incarnation. I mean, do the semantics matter?
It's fascinating. When you have a moment of stillness in your mind, meaning you're sitting and meditating, and just for a little moment, your mind is quiet. You actually stop the wheel of karma for that moment. And when you stop the wheel of karma, all the deep patterns, which are of past lives, which are ancestral, which are the deepest roots, for example, unworthiness, like maybe when you were younger, your sibling told you that what you're doing isn't right and they're better than you, and you took that into heart and you've kind of believed that, and then the way in which you've been reacting in life is um, believing that you're unworthy, and so like a deep pattern from childhood. Not that to blame that person. No, everything is divinely perfect, but just to recognize where the root is. So it could be a root, something that you experienced when you were very young, or a trauma when you were very young. Those deep ones, we become so identified with it that they're really hidden. And just a moment of stillness in the mind, the deepest patterns come up to the surface. And when they come up to the surface, like sometimes we'll call it a dark night of the soul or a death of the ego. They'll come up, and sometimes they can be like uncomfortable in the body, and you meditate into and you hold space, and it really comes up and out and it clears out. And it leaves you feeling lighter, because it's the deeper ones from past lives. It's the ones that, so what we're made up of is all these different patterns from our ancestors, from our culture growing up, our different beliefs that we hold dear to us, and they're all sending different frequency signatures out, which then creates our reality. So, and this one's confrontational because I've brought this up before on my
Yeah.
YouTube channel, and oh gosh, but we are responsible for our reality. We are the center of our universe, and what we vibrate, so what we're thinking and feeling and believing in is how we vibrate. It sends our frequency and it creates our reality. Our outer world is an appearance based on our energy mirrored back to us. So those situations that arise, those people in our lives that trigger us, they're triggering us to mirror the patterns, the shadows that are existing inside of us. So it's important for us to actually take responsibility for ourselves. And actually, it's really empowering when we recognize, hold on, instead of going, oh, I'm going to blame them, it's their fault. Maybe you don't agree with what they did or their behavior, and that's totally fine. But recognize what's coming up for you, because whatever you're deeply triggered by, that's going to be deep stuff, like past life stuff. Like many people have been witches and been killed and burned in past lives, and so they're really scared in this lifetime to stand up and speak their truth and shine their light and be magical. Like this, it's powerful to pay attention to what's arising in the present moment, because we all have past lives and they are deep inside of us, and they want to come up to the surface and dissolve out of us so that we can be emptier. clearer, more spacious, so that we're not just reacting to our environment, but that as we empty out the patterns, we become more clearer and more open in our mind, and then we can consciously choose to respond from our hearts instead of reacting from our heads and our minds.
Hey there, inspired souls. If you wanted to look to the stars to know who you are and what's coming up next for you, you can tune in, get an astrology reading with my little old self, Touchwood, here at the Inspired Evolution. Reading your astrological chart is always a bunch of fun, and we get to dive deep into what makes you who you are through the lens of astrology, but then also take a look at what's coming up for you specifically at this time ahead, through this time with all these changes, and what the astrology Touchwood has to say about it. So if you're inspired by something like that, you can book an astrology reading with myself, amritsandu.com/reading. Back to the episode. You mentioned earlier that it requires a sense of determination and a sense of equanimity. And even within the equanimity, there was this, don't get, holding space for the negative, but also there's this whole thread around then also our relationship with the positive as well, because like you said in your Vipassana, it's like, oh, I got stuck here. I left feeling good. Do you think potentially that's why people may be a bit averse to coming into these more enlightened states because they do love their joy, and they're happy to pay the price of suffering for their joy potentially? Is that a worthwhile
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. This is truth that you're speaking. So, in truth, the expanded state, the infinite being that we are, is very joyful. So, your true nature is joy, but it's a different joy. It's not a joy that comes from pleasures of the material world. So, you don't need something to happen in order to feel joy. Once you crack through the attaching to the highs and resisting and repelling the lows, once you accept that this reality that we find ourselves in is frequency waves, so it's up and down. When you accept that and you get comfortable with it, then you get to a place where you realize, okay, well, I'm having a wonderful moment right now. I feel absolutely fantastic, but I just don't need to attach to it. This too shall pass. I'm going to enjoy this beautiful moment so much, but without attachment. So you're allowed to enjoy yourself, of course. Just because you're not attaching doesn't mean you're not enjoying. But it's important to enjoy both sides of the spectrum. So be in joy when you are experiencing deep sorrow or pain. Know that the infinite you is right here holding the human self, that you are held, and that you're going to get through it. This too shall pass. And so that's the law of nature. This place, anicca, impermanent. It's impermanent. But the beautiful thing is that if you no longer attach to the highs, clinging to them or wanting to find the next high, you'll no longer suffer in the lows. So it's really worthwhile. And also then you're no longer controlled by your emotions, because your emotions will come through as frequency waves. And if you observe an emotion, it can move through you in 90 seconds. If you don't attach or resist it, it'll move through and it'll pass. And then it's like you've got this inner sky and the clouds coming through and you observe it and it passes. And so, yeah, life does become a lot more joyful, a lot more peaceful when you start to live and experience from this way.
One of your sharings before, when you said that determination piece, I couldn't help but reflect on there's that moment that the Buddha draws the line in the sand. you know? I don't know if you've heard the story, but the Buddha draws a line in the sand apparently, and he goes, "Enough. I've traveled far and wide searching for you. Enough. You come to me." You know? And he just sat down under the Bodhi tree, and it's just like draws a circle and goes, "Your time." You know, like he's just, it's like I've been determined, I've been looking, and then there's also that kind of the looking, the seeking, the yearning. Back to what you were saying, it's like it's almost like that's what it actually is, and some part of our searching is getting us there. But then interestingly, some part of our searching is taking us further from center as well. There's a trippy nuance there, is there not?
Oh, the more you expand through this, the more confusing it gets because you realize that both paradoxes, both sides of it exist at the same time.
Well,
And so,
paradoxes only exist in the mind is also one of the things I'm starting to learn through this podcast, actually. Yeah.
so true. Well, this whole experience is mind made, it only exists in the mind. So, so yes, it's like you need a certain amount of determination to get you to a point where you can completely surrender. It's true. So, so the determination is I am going to retract awareness back into my body and stop feeding awareness to every single thought. I'm not going to believe everything my mind thinks. I'm just going to come back into my heart and I'm going to be here in my body. And you start doing this and as you start doing that more and more, it just becomes effortless after a while. Your mind actually starts to rest in the body. But at first it takes determination to get there, and once you're there, you're embodied. Your spirit embodied, and you really start to experience life even more. There was one point that I got to where I said to my friend who I meditate with, I said, I'm experiencing so much. I'm like, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna disappear? Like, so much energy through me. It's so much. It's so much. And he's like, that's your mind. Retract from it. Even the mind will get to you. It'll say things like that. And I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. So then I came back, and then I came back into the next opening. And so it does get easier. That's the beautiful thing. And as it gets easier, at first you're practicing bringing awareness back into the body, being here, not attaching to the mind. And then you are all of a sudden, the practice has dissolved, and there is no practice or practicer or practicing. It's just all happening. You're just very present. Yeah, this is what's available. And what I sense is that whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime, everybody has experienced this at some point. What I sense is many people have lived in Atlantis or Lemuria or when we were communicating telepathically and when we were levitating and when we were using more an expansion of our mind, which is possible for us to get to again. I really feel like it's in the field again.
It's interesting because, I mean, you're living in quite a beautiful part of the world, quite foresty, quite I'm projecting all over you, but it's probably more trees than people is what I imagine, which is some of my favorite environments, to be honest. But I also love the beach too, touch wood. Um, yeah, in such an environment, I imagine it may be more conducive to be working with the relationship of one's mind because what one does interface with is more pertinent to one's relationship with one's own mind because there's less of when you're like in a metropolitan city, there's so much more I don't know, like you said, it is all mind, but it does seem like there are certain pockets where the mind is more rah rah. You know, like I don't know. That's like it's an adjective now, rah rah. but
Love it.
but you know what I mean? Like there does seem to be yeah, certain places where the mind is much more venerated, if that's a word. I don't know, but it just seems yeah, and it's not lost on me that you then also, you know, you take people on experiences and retreats as well. You've got one coming up in Costa Rica. Maybe you can talk to us about that as well, in this moment. But then there's a little bit around this certain places, like there are probably certain places that are more conducive for one to experience oneself in the fashion that you're inviting us into, as opposed to other environments, or is that neither here nor there? It'll happen where it's meant to happen.
Both. It will happen where it's meant to happen, and it can happen. You can be in New York, in the hustle bustle of it all, and you can just have a memory, a remembrance of the infinite being that you are, and experience it. Um, but yes, it's true. Where I live, it kind of just really supports me in being able to have these experiences. I still am very human because I still notice my mind. I still have it still comes up, and it says it, like, has certain things that it patterns inside of it, but it's much more quieter and stiller, um, than ever before. And living in nature, like, just in the jungle, and I don't go out that much, like, I I have a quiet life because I do hold space for a lot of people. Like a lot. So after I hold space for a lot of people, there's so much light moving through me. Like sometimes I get pins and needles, and my hands go like this. They contort. There's so much frequency and light, um, and so then yeah, I spend a lot of time making sure that I am in stillness and quiet, but I also wanna enjoy being human, and I'm going traveling back to South Africa and going to America and all of that, so, yeah, it's interesting. When I'm traveling, um, there is less of this, like, physical experience of it. Yeah, yeah, it feels like more distracted. I feel more distracted by activity and the rah, 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 and all of that, and so it takes more effort to sense and feel and experience the infinite in the body. Yeah.
Wow. Do you think it's interesting because I'm having more and more of these conversations with individuals such as yourself that have, well, with determination, with equanimity, sort of drawn a line and said, enough. You know, I want conscious awareness and I will carry awareness. I will be conscious. I will be aware. And what I hear when you say that is for the majority of us, ego probably takes up 85% of the lens, and then there's spirit in like 15% of the lens. You know, part of me with percentages again, I'm an engineer, I can't help myself. Um, and then, you know, but when you sort of start to draw these um like, you know, making these confirmations, intentions, however you want to say it, drawing your lines in the sand, you know, it seems like you've made this solid intention to potentially go, okay, how much can I, you know, can I invert that in some ways? You know, so that I'm like 85% spirit awareness, consciousness, just you know, and then 15% mind, and it sort of brings mind into this very different ego into very different relationship with oneself. Instead of being consumed by ego and having a little bit of spirit, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm mostly spirit, and I've got an ego to do some of the things that I need to go do. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if it's just because I'm in this podcast and I might be in my own little echo chamber, but I'd love to get your thoughts and sentiments as well. Like, does it seem like, and I'm going to use the word online because I need, does it seem like more and more people are coming online in this way, or is it just a faculty of the internet that more people are able to be exposed to people that are working with the nature of mind in this fashion that it's just bubbling up to the surface and there's always been, yeah, what are your, do you, Like, is there an
Yeah, well,
awakening that's happening right now? Are more people popping through? It seems like more people are popping through. Dunno.
yeah,
Curious.
yeah. It does feel like it. So, like in my body, if I come into my body to sense and feel this, I'm getting like a full body. Yes, this is really happening. Yeah, that that awakening is happening, and it's it's that people are remembering what they truly are, and that in that remembering, they're coming back into their heart, and people are communicating from a much higher frequency space, which is then sending out ripples of frequency that is touching so many in the world. It's like the 100th monkey um theory or experiment that what happened with the monkeys in Japan. There were monkeys that started to clean their potatoes, their sweet potatoes. They would clean it, and then it reached a certain amount of monkeys, and then other monkeys on other islands started to clean their sweet potatoes. What I'm sensing is that we are all deeply connected, and that as we start to remember and be able to hold more of the light that we are, the frequency waves are much lighter and higher, and they're touching even those that have been very disconnected and very much living more like 95% in egoic patterns and 5% spirit. Um, Even they are being kind of touched by it, and it's causing them to even rattle. And it's really when you go through an awakening to remember that you're not just the thinking mind, it does shake you up. And I feel like there's huge shakeups happening collectively, individually, but I also get this deep sense that this is such a blessing. What a time to be alive, because there will be a moment in the future where one will no longer be able to experience awakening because one will no longer fall asleep. So it's really special to fully embody and embrace the whole process of awakening. And it is like the lotus. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, is something more gonna happen to me? Like, to be honest, this week I was like a little bit struggling being human, really struggling with my brain. Thank goodness I've hired someone else, my sister actually, to come and support me, because like to manage the whole logistics of what I'm doing, because I'm just channeling and being in the high frequency that something's happening, and it's actually a little bit hard being human at the moment. So and I know we have these moments where we have huge expansion, where light codes come in, where we experience huge opening up and feeling more light, and then we integrate and we get used to it. And then once we get used to it, we'll have another moment. So I don't feel like it's happening too fast, too hard. It's sometimes it does feel too much, but overall, it's always divine timing, and we're opening at the level that we're ready for as a human species, as humanity. Here, I feel as humanity, there is an evolution that we're moving through, and it's amazing. It's exciting, because what's next? Like, what else is available for us if more and more of us start to live from our hearts? If more and more of us say, no, I don't like that fearful thought that's just come in. No, not that today. No, I'm going to see if there's something else for me today. I'm going to feel into something else. Oh yeah, this feels good. This feels good. And then more and more of this. Oh wow, I can just feel something magical is available for humanity. And I don't quite know what it is, but what I do know, one thing about this year, 2026, is that we're going to get more comfortable in the unknown, because what likes to know everything? The ego. The pattern's in the ego. It needs to control every next move. And how does it control it? It looks at the past and predicts the future, which means we move very slowly and we loop. But I feel like this year, because last year, the 2025, the year of the snake, we were just dissolving layers and layers. And I also see this image of the snake eating its own tail, the ego eating its own pattern. So we did a lot of that. And now we go into the fire horse. Fire is very powerful. It means that we can create with it, that we can transform with it, that we can dissolve and burn things that no longer serve us. And the horse feels strong and wild and calm at the same time, and wise. And if the horse is balanced, then I feel that this year we are going to be able to embody everything that we've been learning. So coming back to that piece where you say knowledge, because 2025, I feel like we've been learning a lot. Now we get to embody it and implement it and live from it. Not just talk about it all the time, but actually start to take action. So I feel like instead of where we'd normally say, okay, yes, I'll do that. Meanwhile, there's a full body no happening. Well, I feel like more sovereignty and more like, no, I'm not going to do that. And yes, that feels right. And people already standing in their power. So I feel like there's going to be rapid shifts, fast movement with the fire and the horse, but also truth and standing up for what's right, and not being controlled by the ego so much, and getting more comfortable in the unknown, and trusting that the infinite you has got you. You're inside of source. You are already safe. You are already held and loved. So you don't need to try to control it from the finite ego. You can trust and go with the flow and swim with the river of life.
Yeah, I feel like I've watched a couple of your videos and you're talking about Earth is going through a great birthing canal right now, and I feel like you've been describing it right here. What do you see for us coming forward, going ahead into the future?
What I'm sensing is that there's going to be structures and powers that change and dissolve this year. I feel like there's some things, some truths that are going to surface. I also get a strong sense that expanded intelligence, aliens, extraterrestrials, I feel like these beings of expanded consciousness are already able to connect to more and more people. And I feel that something big's going to happen here, that more and more individuals are going to have direct experience with these beings. And that which has been hidden from us is really going to be coming up to the surface. I also feel that because truth, this is the year of truth being uncovered, it also means that the powers that are might try to contract and hold tight a bit stronger. So that's the feeling. But the good news is that cracking open through the heart feels stronger. And it feels like more people are going to awaken this year than than the amount of people that awakened last year. So like another mass awakening. I'm sensing that we've got 3i Atlas activating with Jupiter in March. So we had a huge activation in December. And a lot of people really felt this. And we've been acclimatizing and adjusting our energies, and now we're gonna have another massive, energetic experience and awakening. People connecting to their soul purpose, people feeling that there's so much more to life, that they've got a bigger role than just their daily personality, remembering their spiritual wisdom. I feel like more clarity, and pondering the deeper questions. So I feel like Three Eye Atlas is going to create this big activation. I also sense in June, on the 21st of June, I've channeled this, that, and I didn't know this, I had to go look it up, was that the solstice, the word itself means sun stands still. And so there's going to be this moment on the 21st of June where there's a still point. It's still, like, before the sun starts to reverse its direction on its path along the horizon. So as we have this beautiful solstice moment, I'm getting a sense that people are going to move from the mind into the heart, and it's going to activate deep intuition, more sensitivity, softness, more emotional in in a gentle way, in a very beautiful way. What I'm also sensing is our sun. Our sun is such a strong mirror of our solar plexus chakra, which is in the center of the diaphragm, which is like our own sun, which is where the ego and our personal will power is vibrating the strongest. I feel this year there's going to be some sort of an activation. Something's going to happen with our sun. I feel like our sun is really communicating a lot with us. So it could be that there's like a very strong solar flare, but it's not going to cause, there's no fear around this. It's not going to cause darkness or issues or problems. Yeah, there could be some like technology that goes off for a little bit. And what it really is going to do is actually affect our own technology, which is our own mind, those patterns that have been running our systems. And I feel like this is needed, and it's going to be powerful. So then we're going to have more clarity of the mind, and be run less and less by the ego. So yeah, what's happening with our sun is important for our own internal sun. I do feel that Mother Earth is communicating and going through her own release. So as we are all individually releasing the patterns that are blocking us from the infinite creator that we are, so that we can really live from more of a joyful, expanded creative space, I feel that as we release them individually, we are releasing them also for the collective, and Mother Earth is mirroring it. So I get a sense that there's going to be volcanoes that haven't erupted for a while. There's a lot of energy from under the earth coming up and releasing. That feels really good. It feels important. Yeah, that's everything. Do you have any questions around that?
Oh my goodness. It just seems like there's so much energetic activation at this time. I mean, you touched on so many different threads in there. Obviously being an astrologer, I absolutely love the cosmic awareness in there as well. And I can't help but just, yeah, continue to step back into yeah, just as you were saying, everything is mind, and then looking back at like, oh, we're going through these cycles, and just astrologically, there's so many cycles that I know that are ending. But as you're describing it, it's like it's more than just the astrology. It's like happening on, so many levels. I shouldn't say just the astrology, because obviously, I feel like astrology is a map for the duality that we're in. But as you said, the sun is going through its own stuff, and one of our dear friends here on the podcast, Stefan Burns, he's reporting all these solar flares, and he's tuned in as well, and he sort of says there's these informational downloads that we're also receiving at these times when we go through, these shifts and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's just deeply, I don't know, we also had, today's episode that came out at the time of this recording was with, Heather Ensworth. And she goes, "They say souls were lining up to be here at this time," because it is pretty trippy, like, the Earth is heavily populated with human souls. When you look at Vedantic texts, they sort of say, you go through many different lifetimes, and then you get the boon, touch wood, of being incarnated as human. So, actually, in some ways, despite how the world looks, this I don't know, maybe part of me has a conjecture that this is actually spiritually quite an interesting time because so many humans, right? Like, that must means they've gone through lots of different incarnations to land here. And what does it really mean for where we're at and where we're headed? So, yeah, I mean, just to really any advice on how to navigate these times, I guess, is probably a good question for me to ask on behalf of the audience. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let go of trying to control your outer world. That's going to be the biggest relief. And come inside, and by coming inside, and you can do this a few times a day when you feel like, oh gosh, so much is happening out there. Remember that you can always disconnect from that for a moment and come back inside. The peace is here inside of you. And that all of this is divine perfection, that this is not a mistake. I mean, consciousness is way too intelligent to make anything a mistake here. If you look at the physical body and you see at the cells how they interact with each other, how you eat a piece of food and the body knows exactly how to take that food and use it for healing, for energy, and eliminate what's not needed. It's way too wise. So if you can just remember that, something very wise is unfolding here and it's divine perfection, then that helps you to be able to trust in it. And also to know that every single soul that's incarnated here has responded to a frequency that was sent out from Mother Earth. Mother Earth sent out a certain frequency, and every soul heard it, felt it, and said, this is my time. I've got to get down to earth. I've got to get into a body because this is the experience that I want to have. And to have such a profound experience, the duality has to be at its maximum. To break those molds, to break those patterns, to connect to something that is so profound, that is always here, that has always been here, and that can be deeply remembered. And so, wow, what a time to be alive. What a blessing to be a human. Because not everyone is able to be human right now. And you've chosen to be human. So you're a definite important piece of this expansion puzzle, of this evolution. And so remembering I'm an important part of this, and I'm going to play my part by not feeding into the negativity. By, when you get worry is quite a rigid frequency pattern, and it is low vibration, and it lowers your vibration. Instead of consuming yourself with worry, there's something else that you can do for the world that's better. You can recognize, okay, there's things out there in the world that are intense, and then you can go, okay, what can I do? Come back into the heart, take 5 deep breaths in and out, heart-centering breaths, and that immediately raises your frequency and send out light to whatever situation you were worried about, and that will make a difference in the world. That completely helps the situations that are going to unfold. But these situations are needed, and your light will help them to be less dramatic and intense. And I mean, this really is an exciting time to be alive, dissolving and releasing patterns that just don't suit a heart-led loving human race. Yeah.
Natalie Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing yourself so openly, so vulnerably, um, so generously. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for your generosity of time and energy here today. Absolutely. And then also your generosity of spirit. Touch wood. And as we can see, so much of this conversation really stands on the shoulders of who you are, and the work that you've poured into yourself. Yeah, or the work that pours out of you. Okay, I've been listening. I've got some determinations to make and some equanimity to adopt. But honestly, thank you so much for who you are, Natalie. And yeah, it's really a treat and a pleasure. Thank you for doing this with us today. Appreciate you. Mm.
Oh, Amrit, truly from my heart. It's such a pleasure because in my heart, all I wish for is that more and more people can remember the beauty of the light that they are. And I feel like what you and I have co-created in this container that you hold is so beautiful and deep. Thank you so much.
Ooh, you made it through to the end of another really incredible episode, touch wood. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. To all of you that are subscribed to the channel, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everything you see around here, it's all powered and empowered by you championing this podcast. Costs you absolutely nothing. It's absolutely free. Hit the subscribe button below. And it supports love, positivity, and wisdom like this being spread through the channel. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. It really goes such a long way. Cannot thank you enough. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors in the Inspired Evolution. Please join the community, join the movement, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for your incredible support. It costs you absolutely nothing. It's completely free. Just hit that subscribe button. It helps power the entire movement. Thank you. Friendly reminder again, we have, if you're inspired by this content and you want to forge it into real connection, we have the Inspired Evolution Community Circle, the Circle online as well. You can check it out, inspiredevolution.com/circle if you feel the call for more community in this Aquarian time like this. And on screen now for you to dive in even deeper on your journey of the Inspired Evolution, the next best episode. So go on, take your pick and make your click. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you there.